The massive hall floated in space, its crystal walls reflecting the light of 1,000 stars. Inside, beings from across the galaxy sat in curved rows. Some had tentacles instead of arms. Others breathed methane through tubes. A few looked almost human, but their eyes held ancient wisdom that came from living for thousands of years. Ambassador Zektar stepped forward. His blue skin shimmered under the hall's bright lights. 4 arms moved as he spoke, each one holding a different device. The other ambassadors watched him with interest. "Fellow council members," Zektar began, his voice carrying clearly through the translator systems. "Today we discuss a new species. They call themselves humans. They come from a small blue planet in a quiet arm of the galaxy." A hologram appeared above the assembly. It showed a planet covered in blue oceans and white clouds. Green and brown landmasses dotted its surface. It looked peaceful and beautiful. "At first glance," Zektar continued, "this world seems pleasant enough, but look closer at what surrounds it." The hologram zoomed out. Around the planet, thousands of metal objects floated in space. They tumbled slowly, catching and reflecting sunlight. Some were as small as books. Others were as large as buildings. They formed rings of junk around the planet. "Behold," Zektar said with disgust, "their idea of space exploration. They fill their orbit with garbage, broken satellites, used rocket parts, failed space stations. They call it their space graveyard." Murmurs of shock rippled through the assembly. The hegemony ambassador raised one of her crystal arms. "How much debris are we talking about?" "Over 40,000 tracked objects larger than a softball," Zektar replied. "Millions of smaller pieces. They cannot even clean up after themselves, yet they asked to join our council." The hologram changed. Now it showed human spacecraft. They were crude metal cylinders with fire shooting out the back. Chemical rockets, the most basic form of space travel. Some of the younger ambassadors had never seen anything so primitive. Their fastest ships, Zektar explained, use controlled explosions to push themselves forward, like throwing rocks behind you to move ahead. They have discovered nuclear power, but only barely. Their computers are slower than a child's learning toy. Ambassador Thiss of the Collective spoke up. Her voice sounded like wind chimes. "What of their military capabilities?" Zektar's laugh was harsh. "Military? They fight with metal bullets and chemical explosives. Their largest warships are floating metal boxes with cannons. A single patrol craft from any of our fleets could destroy their entire navy." The hologram showed images of human soldiers and their weapons. Guns that fired small pieces of metal. Tanks that crawled along the ground. Aircraft that needed air to fly. To the advanced aliens, it looked like watching children play with sticks and stones. "They have been in space for less than 100 of their years," Zektar continued. "In that time, they have managed to scatter debris throughout their local space. They build things, use them briefly, then abandon them. This is not the behavior of a species ready for galactic membership." The council elder, a being so old that entire civilizations had risen and fallen during her lifetime, spoke slowly. "What does their application say about their intentions?" Zektar activated another hologram. Human writing appeared in the air, translated into galactic standard. "They wish to share knowledge and technology for the betterment of all species. They offer to contribute their unique perspective to galactic peace and security." Several ambassadors made sounds that translated as laughter. The idea that these primitive beings could contribute anything to advanced galactic civilization seemed absurd. "Their unique perspective," said Ambassador Vorth, his metal body clicking as he moved, "appears to be making messes and leaving them for others to clean up." The debate continued for hours. Some ambassadors argued for giving humans a chance. They pointed out that every species had started somewhere. Others insisted that humanity was too dangerous in their current state. A species that could not manage their own orbital space might cause damage to other worlds. In the end, the vote was not close. 417 voices against, only 12 in favor. The decision was clear. Zektar prepared the official response. His words would travel across space to reach the small blue planet. "The Galactic Council has reviewed humanity's application for membership. We find that your species does not yet meet the basic standards for spacefaring civilization. He paused, looking out at the debris field in the hologram. Your inability to maintain clean orbital space around your homeworld demonstrates a lack of basic responsibility. Until you can prove capable of managing your own local environment, you are not ready for galactic society. The message continued with formal diplomatic language, but the meaning was simple. Humanity was banned from galactic space until they proved themselves worthy. No alien technology would reach Earth. No trade would be allowed. They were alone until they could clean up their mess. What none of the council members knew was that one small human probe had made it far enough to record their meeting. Hidden among the debris of a failed asteroid mining mission, the tiny device had been forgotten by everyone except Dr. Sarah Chen. Dr. Chen had built the probe in secret against direct orders from Earth's government. She had wanted to know what lay beyond their solar system. Her probe had drifted for 3 years before finding the council meeting by pure chance. Now, as she watched the recording in her small laboratory, Dr. Chen felt her heart sink. The aliens saw humanity as nothing more than careless children. Worse, they had decided to ignore Earth entirely. But as the recording continued, something else grew inside her. Anger. These aliens looked at humanity's orbital debris and saw only garbage. They did not understand what that junk really represented. Every piece of metal floating in space had been put there by human hands. Every failed satellite had taught them something new. Every broken space station had pushed their knowledge forward. The debris field was not just garbage. It was the story of human determination. Dr. Chen made a decision that would change everything. She would not just prove the aliens wrong. She would show them that humanity's greatest weakness could become their greatest strength. The message from the Galactic Council reached Earth 6 months later. World leaders were disappointed but not surprised. They had hoped for contact with advanced aliens, but they were used to setbacks. Dr. Chen read the official response in her laboratory and smiled. The aliens thought they were so smart. They had made one critical mistake. They assumed that humans would simply give up and try to meet alien standards, but humans had never been good at following other people's rules. They were much better at finding new ways to win impossible games. The orbital graveyard that embarrassed humanity in alien eyes suddenly looked different to Dr. Chen. She saw 300 years of human innovation floating above her head. Experiments that had failed but had taught valuable lessons. Technologies that had been abandoned but could be rebuilt better. The aliens wanted Earth to clean up their orbital debris. Dr. Chen had a better idea. She would turn that debris into something the galaxy had never seen before. Something that would make the aliens regret their dismissive words. The war for humanity's place in the galaxy was about to begin, and the weapons would be built from the very junk the aliens had mocked. Dr. Sarah Chen floated inside the cramped cockpit of her salvage pod, staring at the twisted metal structure ahead of her. 6 months had passed since she received the recording of the Galactic Council meeting. 6 months of preparing for this moment. "Marcus, are you getting this?" She spoke into her helmet microphone. "Copy that, Sarah," came the reply from Marcus Rodriguez, her salvage expert. His pod floated 200 meters away, its mechanical arms reaching toward a broken satellite. "This piece here used to be part of the ISS-7. Most people think it was just another failed space station." Dr. Chen maneuvered closer to examine the debris. The International Space Station 7 had been humanity's most ambitious project before the budget cuts shut it down. Now its remains tumbled slowly through space, another piece of the orbital graveyard that had embarrassed humanity before the galaxy. But Dr. Chen saw something different. Her scanner readings showed unusual energy patterns coming from inside the twisted hull. "Yuki, can you access the station's old computer systems?" Dr. Yuki Tanaka, floating in her own pod nearby, was already working on the problem. Her fingers moved quickly across her keyboard, sending signals to the dead station. "The main systems are offline, but I'm detecting some kind of backup power source. Sarah, this is impossible. This station has been dead for 15 years. "Not dead," Dr. Chen replied, watching her scanner readings climb higher. "Sleeping, Issa." 3 scientists had been working together for months, cataloging every piece of debris in Earth's orbital space. What had started as a simple survey mission had become something much bigger. Each piece of junk told a story that no one had bothered to listen to. Marcus guided his pod's mechanical arm to a section of hull plating. "Look at this material. I've never seen anything like it." His scanner beam revealed a metal that seemed to bend light around itself. The report said the ISS set failed because of structural problems, but this hull plating is stronger than anything we use today. Dr. Chen felt her excitement growing. The project was canceled because the materials were too expensive and the design was too ambitious. But the research continued in secret. They were working on metamaterials that could manipulate space-time. "You mean like faster-than-light travel?" Yuki asked, her voice filled with disbelief. "Not exactly," Dr. Chen replied, remembering the classified files she had studied. "They were trying to create materials that could bend space around a ship. Make it harder to detect or target. The project was shut down when the prototype station started showing unusual readings." Marcus attached a sample collector to the hull plating. "Unusual how?" "The station started becoming partially invisible." "To radar," Dr. Chen explained. "The military got scared and pulled the plug. They thought it was a malfunction. But what if it was working exactly as designed?" The three pods moved through the debris field like underwater explorers examining a sunken city. Each piece of junk revealed new secrets. A communications satellite that had supposedly burned out contained experimental quantum processors. A failed Mars mission ship carried a fusion reactor that had actually worked perfectly before being deemed too dangerous. "Sarah, you need to see this," Yuki called out. She had moved to a cluster of smaller debris that had once been military test satellites. "These aren't communication satellites at all. They're weapons platforms." Dr. Chen joined her colleagues studying the readings. The satellites looked harmless enough, just metal boxes with solar panels and communication dishes. But Yuki's scans showed something different hidden inside. "Railgun prototypes," Yuki explained, her voice barely above a whisper. "Each satellite contains a magnetic acceleration system. They were testing kinetic weapons in space without telling anyone." Marcus laughed over the radio. "So we've got invisible hull plating, quantum computers, fusion reactors, and space-based railguns, all floating around up here like garbage. No wonder the aliens think we're idiots. We threw away technology they would consider advanced." Chen nodded, but her mind was racing ahead to bigger implications. "It's not just individual technologies. Look at the pattern. Every failed project pushed the boundaries of what's possible. Every piece of debris represents a breakthrough that someone decided was too dangerous, too expensive, or too ambitious." She guided her pod toward a larger structure, the remains of a deep space probe that had been launched toward Alpha Centauri 20 years earlier. The mission had failed when the probe's experimental drive system malfunctioned just outside Mars orbit. Now it drifted with the rest of the debris, forgotten and written off as another failure. But Dr. Chen's scanners told a different story. The drive system hadn't malfunctioned. It had worked too well. The probe had briefly achieved faster-than-light speed before safety systems shut it down. The engineers had panicked and declared the mission a failure rather than admit they had accidentally created a working FTL drive. "Guys," she said slowly, "we're not looking at a junkyard. We're looking at the largest collection of advanced technology in the solar system. The only reason it's not being used is because humans are afraid of their own inventions." The implications hit all three of them at once. Humanity had been building cutting-edge technology for centuries, but fear, politics, and short-sighted thinking had caused them to abandon breakthrough after breakthrough. The orbital debris field wasn't evidence of human failure. It was evidence of human innovation that had outpaced human wisdom. "The aliens looked at this and saw garbage," Marcus said, his voice filled with new understanding. "But they didn't know what they were looking at." Yuki was already running calculations on her portable computer. "If we could integrate these systems, combine the technologies that were abandoned separately, we could build ships that match or exceed galactic standards." Dr. Chen smiled inside her helmet. She had suspected this was possible, but seeing the evidence floating all around them made it real. "The question is whether we can make it work. These technologies were abandoned for good reasons. They're dangerous, unstable, or incompatible with existing systems. Or, Marcus suggested, they just needed the right approach. Human engineers have always been good at making incompatible things work together. We call it improvising." The next several hours passed, in a blur of discovery. Every piece of debris revealed new possibilities. solar collection systems that had been deemed too efficient for civilian use, atmospheric processors that had been abandoned when they started producing too much oxygen, communication systems that had been shut down when they started picking up signals from deep space. Dr. Chen began to see the bigger picture. Humanity had been on the verge of multiple technological breakthroughs for decades, but instead of combining their discoveries, they had scattered them across space as individual, failed projects. "We need help," she said finally. "The three of us can catalog this technology, but we can't build anything with it. We need engineers, physicists, computer specialists. We need people who understand these systems." Yuki nodded. "And we need to do it in secret. If the world governments find out what we're planning, they'll shut us down just like they shut down all these projects." Marcus was studying a schematic on his screen. "I know some people. Engineers who were fired for pushing too hard on ambitious projects. Scientists who were blacklisted for refusing to play it safe. If we're going to build something from this junk, we need the kind of people who don't give up easily." Dr. Chen looked out at the debris field surrounding them. Thousands of pieces of metal and technology, each one representing humanity's refusal to accept limitations. The aliens had seen failure and disorder, but she saw something else entirely. She saw the raw materials for revenge. "We're going to need a base of operations," she said. "Somewhere we can work without being noticed. Somewhere with the tools and facilities to turn this junk into something functional." "I know a place," Marcus replied. "The old Colorado Deep Space Command facility. It was abandoned after the budget cuts, but all the equipment is still there. Underground, shielded from orbital observation, and officially it doesn't exist anymore." Dr. Chen made her decision. The aliens wanted humanity to prove themselves worthy of galactic society. She would give them proof they would never forget. "Gentlemen," she said, using the formal tone that meant she was about to change everything, "we're going to build a fleet." The elevator descended for what felt like forever before finally stopping with a metallic clank. Dr. Sarah Chen stepped out into the abandoned Colorado Deep Space Command facility, her footsteps echoing in the vast underground hangar. Emergency lighting cast long shadows across rows of empty workbenches and silent machinery. "Welcome to the graveyard of human ambition," Marcus Rodriguez said as he followed her out of the elevator. "This place was supposed to be the future of space operations. Instead, it became another casualty of budget cuts and political fears." Dr. Yuki Tanaka emerged last, carrying a case full of portable computers and scanning equipment. "The government spent $12 billion building this facility, then abandoned it when the public got scared of military space programs. Now it's officially a storage facility for obsolete equipment." Dr. Chen walked deeper into the hangar, examining the abandoned tools and manufacturing equipment. Everything they needed was here, waiting to be used again. "How many people can we bring in without attracting attention?" "The facility was designed to house 500 personnel," Marcus replied. "But we need to be careful about who we recruit. We're talking about people who were fired, blacklisted, or forced out of their jobs for being too ambitious or too honest." Over the next 3 months, they carefully assembled their team. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, a fusion physicist who had been fired for insisting that her reactor design was safe. Colonel James Mitchell, a military engineer who had been court-martialed for refusing to abandon a rescue mission. Dr. Amy Park, a computer scientist who had been blacklisted for warning about security vulnerabilities in government systems. Each person who joined them brought skills, knowledge, and anger at a system that had wasted their talents. They worked in the underground facility, officially dead to the world above, united by a common goal that seemed impossible. "The first challenge," Dr. Chen explained to the assembled team, "is integration. We have dozens of breakthrough technologies floating in orbit, but they were never designed to work together. Each one was developed separately by different teams with different goals." She activated a holographic display showing the orbital debris field. Red dots marked pieces they had identified as containing useful technology. The ISS-7's metamaterials, the fusion reactor from the Mars mission, the quantum processors from the failed communication project. Individually, they're amazing. Together, they could be revolutionary. Colonel Mitchell studied the display with professional interest. "The problem is compatibility. These systems use different power requirements, different control interfaces, different structural designs. It's like trying to build a car using parts from a bicycle, a helicopter, and a submarine. Dr. Park nodded in agreement. I've been analyzing the software systems. Each piece of technology has its own operating protocols. The fusion reactor expects one type of control input, the quantum processors use a completely different language, and the metamaterials respond to electromagnetic fields that would interfere with both systems. So we create a new type of integration system, Dr. Chen said, something that can bridge the gaps between incompatible technologies, something uniquely human. The solution came from an unexpected source. Dr. Park had been working late one night, trying to create a communication protocol between the different systems. Frustrated and exhausted, she started improvising, writing code that broke every rule of proper programming. I was just trying to get the systems to talk to each other, she explained to the team the next morning. I started treating each technology like a person with their own personality. Instead of trying to force them to use the same language, I created a translation system that adapts in real time. The result was something no alien civilization had ever developed. The synthesis protocol, as they named it, used human creativity as a bridging algorithm. Instead of requiring perfect compatibility, it allowed different technologies to work together by finding creative solutions to integration problems. It's like improvised music, Dr. Elena Rodriguez explained. Each instrument plays its own part, but they create harmony by responding to each other in real time. The system learns and adapts, finding new ways to combine incompatible elements. The first test came 6 months later. They had assembled a small prototype spacecraft in the underground hangar using components salvaged from the orbital debris. The ship looked like nothing that had ever flown before, a patchwork of different technologies held together by the synthesis protocol. Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel Mitchell announced from the pilot's seat, I present the LRS Lazarus, built from the bones of dead dreams and held together by human stubbornness. The ship was small, barely large enough for a 3-person crew, but it contained technologies that defied every rule of conventional engineering. The hull was made from ISS 7th metamaterials that could become partially invisible to sensors. The power plant was a miniaturized version of the Mars mission fusion reactor. The computer system used quantum processors that could predict and adapt to changing conditions. Initiating first test, Colonel Mitchell reported as he activated the ship's systems. Fusion reactor is online and stable. Quantum processors are synchronizing with all systems. Metamaterial hull is responding to stealth commands. Dr. Chen watched the readings on her console with growing excitement. Every system was working perfectly, but more importantly, they were working together. The synthesis protocol was finding ways to optimize the interaction between different technologies in real time. Colonel, she said, take us up. The Lazarus rose from the underground hangar like a ghost. Its metamaterial hull bent light around it, making it nearly invisible to human sensors. The fusion drive propelled it toward orbit with smooth, silent power. Most importantly, the ship's systems were learning and improving with every second of operation. This is impossible, Dr. Park said, watching her displays. The ship is rewriting its own operating code. The quantum processors are finding more efficient ways to integrate the different systems. It's like the ship is alive. Colonel Mitchell laughed over the radio from the pilot's seat. It's not alive, but it's definitely learning. The control system is adapting to my flying style. The metamaterials are adjusting to optimize stealth based on our current heading. This ship is getting smarter. The test flight lasted 6 hours. When the Lazarus returned to the underground facility, it was measurably better than when it had left. The synthesis protocol had found dozens of small improvements, optimizations that made the ship more efficient and more capable. We've done something no one has ever done before, Dr. Chen told the assembled team. We've created a technology that improves itself through use, but one ship isn't enough. We need a fleet. The work that followed was intense and dangerous. Teams of engineers worked around the clock, launching secret missions to salvage specific pieces of orbital debris. Each new technology they recovered added to their capabilities, but also created new challenges. The second ship, designated Phoenix 1, was built around the hull of a failed military space station. Its primary weapon was a railgun system salvaged from the orbital weapons platforms powered by fusion reactors and controlled by quantum computers. Like the Lazarus, it defied conventional logic by making incompatible technologies work together. The beauty of the synthesis protocol. Dr. Elena Rodriguez explained, is that it treats each ship as unique. No two vessels have exactly the same combination of technologies, so no two ships work exactly the same way. We're not building a standard fleet. We're building a collection of individuals. As the months passed, more ships took shape in the underground facility. Phoenix 2 was built for speed, using experimental drive systems that had been abandoned as too dangerous. Phoenix 3 was designed for heavy assault, mounting weapons that conventional engineering said were impossible to power or control. Each ship was a masterpiece of improvisation, taking humanity's greatest failures and turning them into unprecedented successes. But they were also proof of something the aliens had never understood about humans. Failure was not the opposite of success for humans. It was practice. We have 17 operational ships, Colonel Mitchell reported during their weekly status meeting. Each one unique, each one more capable than anything in our official fleet. But we have a problem. The orbital debris field is getting attention. Dr. Chen had been expecting this. As they salvaged more and more pieces from Earth's space graveyard, other people had begun to notice. Satellite operators reported missing debris. Space agencies detected unusual energy signatures. Military observers noted changes in the orbital environment. How long before someone investigates? She asked. Maybe 6 months if we're lucky, Marcus replied. The official position is that the debris is just naturally deorbiting, but that won't hold up to serious examination. Dr. Chen looked around the room at the team that had become her family. Engineers, physicists, soldiers, and dreamers who had all been cast aside by a system that feared their ambitions. Together, they had achieved something that was supposed to be impossible. Then we finish the job, she decided. We have 6 months to complete the fleet and prepare for whatever comes next, because when the world discovers what we've built, everything changes. Captain Elena Vasquez floated in the command center of the Phoenix Rising, watching as her fleet prepared for their first full deployment. 2 years had passed since the Phoenix project began in secret. Now, 47 ships hung in formation around Earth's orbital space, each one built from the debris that had once embarrassed humanity before the galaxy. All ships report ready for operation, Commander Park announced from her station. The former computer scientist had become the fleet's tactical coordinator, her understanding of the synthesis protocol making her invaluable for coordinating the unique capabilities of each vessel. Elena had been chosen to lead the fleet not because of her rank, but because of her experience with failure. As commander of the failed Mars mission 15 years earlier, she understood what it meant to turn disaster into opportunity. Her ship, the Phoenix Rising, had been built from the wreckage of 12 different failed space programs, including her own. Galactic Council Monitoring Station is requesting identification, reported Lieutenant Torres from the communications console. They're detecting massive energy signatures throughout our orbital space. Elena smiled grimly. The aliens had finally noticed what humanity had been building above their heads. Tell them we're conducting routine maintenance on our orbital debris. Nothing to concern the advanced civilizations of the galaxy. The lie wouldn't hold for long. The Phoenix fleet represented a complete transformation of Earth's orbital environment. Where once thousands of pieces of junk had tumbled aimlessly through space, now organized formations of warships patrolled in perfect coordination. Each ship was different, built from whatever debris had been available, but all were connected by the synthesis protocol into a single adaptive fighting force. "Ma'am," called Dr. Chen from her science station. She had insisted on serving aboard the flagship, unwilling to miss the moment when her vision became reality. "Long-range sensors are detecting an incoming fleet. Galactic Council markings. 6 ships, heavy cruiser class." Elena felt her heart rate increase. This was the moment they had all been preparing for. "Battle stations, all ships to alert status. Let's show our galactic neighbors what we've built from their rejects." Throughout the fleet, alarms sounded and crews rushed to their positions. But these were not the standard military responses the aliens would expect. Each Phoenix ship operated differently, their crews adapting to unique combinations of salvaged technology. The Phoenix 2, built around the hull of a racing satellite, practically danced through space as it took position. Its pilot, a former test pilot who had been grounded for taking too many risks, treated the ship like a living creature rather than a machine. The Phoenix 7, constructed from the remains of a deep space observatory, extended massive sensor arrays that had once searched for distant stars. Now they scanned for enemy weaknesses with capabilities that exceeded anything in the galactic databases. The Phoenix 12, built from military weapons platforms that had been deemed too dangerous for use, powered up railguns that could punch through any known armor. Its weapons systems had been abandoned, not because they didn't work, but because they worked too well. "Enemy fleet is hailing us," Lieutenant Torres reported. "Audio only. Put them through," Elena ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was coldly formal, translated by galactic standard protocols. "Unidentified human vessels. You are in violation of the quarantine restrictions placed on your system. Power, down your weapons and prepare for inspection." Elena activated her own communication system, broadcasting on all frequencies so that every ship in both fleets could hear her response. "Galactic Council vessels. This is Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth Defense Fleet. You are in human space without permission. State your business or withdraw immediately." A pause. Then the alien voice returned, filled with disbelief. "Earth Defense Fleet? You primitives don't have a defense fleet. You have chemical rockets and orbital garbage." "We had orbital garbage," Elena corrected. "We've been renovating. Care to see the improvements?" The alien fleet moved closer, their ships maintaining perfect formation according to standard galactic military doctrine. Elena could see them clearly now on her screens. Sleek vessels with smooth hulls and uniform weapon placements. Beautiful, efficient, and utterly predictable. "Human captain, your vessels are not in our databases. What technology are you using?" Elena laughed. "That's the beautiful thing about being underestimated. We're using your rejects. Every piece of junk you saw floating around our planet has been recycled into something you won't recognize." The alien commander's confusion was obvious even through the translator. "Impossible. We analyzed your orbital debris. It was primitive, broken, useless." "To you, maybe," Elena replied. "But humans have always been good at making broken things work better than they ever did originally. Phoenix Fleet, demonstrate our capabilities." What happened next would be discussed in galactic military academies for centuries to come. The Phoenix ships didn't attack in any conventional sense. Instead, they simply showed what they could do. The Phoenix 3 activated its cloaking system, vanishing completely from sensors despite being in plain visual sight. The metamaterials salvaged from the ISS-7 bent space around the ship, making it effectively invisible to any detection system in the galactic arsenal. The Phoenix 9 extended solar collection arrays that had once been deemed too efficient for civilian use. Within seconds, it was gathering more energy than the alien ships thought possible, storing it in fusion batteries that glowed with barely contained power. The Phoenix 15 launched a swarm of smaller craft that had been built from communication satellites and surveillance drones. Each one moved independently, but they coordinated their actions through quantum entanglement communication that responded faster than light. "This is impossible," the alien commander transmitted. "Your technology readouts are beyond our classification. Systems, how did primitive humans develop such capabilities?" Elena felt pride swell in her chest as she watched her fleet demonstrate technologies that the galaxy had never seen before. "We didn't develop them. We inherited them. Every failed experiment, every abandoned project, every piece of junk you saw floating around our planet was actually a breakthrough waiting to happen. We just needed the right crisis to bring them all together." The alien ships were scanning frantically now, trying to understand what they were seeing. Their sensors could detect the individual technologies, but the way they worked together defied all known principles of engineering. "Your ships shouldn't be able to function," the alien commander protested. "You're combining incompatible systems, fusion reactors with quantum processors, metamaterial hulls with electromagnetic weapons. The interference patterns alone should tear your ships apart." "Should," Elena agreed. "But they don't. Want to know why? Because we learned something you advanced civilizations forgot. Sometimes the best solution isn't the most logical one. Sometimes you just have to try things and see what works." The synthesis protocol was operating at peak efficiency now, connecting all 47 ships into a single adaptive network. Each vessel shared information with the others, learning from their experiences and optimizing their performance in real time. The fleet was becoming smarter and more capable with every passing minute. "Human captain," the alien commander said, his voice now carrying a note of respect. "We came here to investigate violations of quarantine protocols, but what we have found defies our understanding. Your fleet appears to be technologically superior to our own vessels." Elena felt a moment of satisfaction. "Funny how that works out. You looked at our orbital debris and saw failure. We looked at the same debris and saw raw materials. The difference is perspective." The standoff continued for several hours as more alien ships arrived to observe the impossible human fleet. Word spread quickly through galactic communication networks. The primitive species that couldn't clean up their own orbital space had somehow built warships that exceeded galactic technology standards. "Ma'am," Dr. Chen reported, "I'm detecting massive fleet movements throughout the local galactic region. Multiple species are dispatching observation vessels. We're about to have a lot of company." Elena nodded. She had expected this. The appearance of an advanced human fleet would send shockwaves through galactic civilization. Species that had dismissed Earth as irrelevant would suddenly need to reevaluate everything they thought they knew about humans. "Signal all Phoenix ships," she ordered. "Maintain defensive formations, but do not initiate hostilities. We're not here to start a war. We're here to prove a point." The point was simple but profound. The aliens had looked at humanity and seen only primitives who couldn't manage their own waste. But waste was just another word for unused potential, and humans had always been exceptional at finding potential in places others saw only problems. As Elena watched more alien fleets arrive to observe her ships, she thought about the journey that had brought them here. From the humiliation of galactic rejection to this moment of technological revelation, every failure had been a stepping stone. Every abandoned project had been preparation for this day. "Captain," Lieutenant Torres called out, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth." "Today!" The void swarm arrived like a plague of metal locusts. Captain Elena Vasquez watched from the bridge of the Phoenix Rising as dozens of massive ships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. Each vessel was the size of a small moon, their dark hulls seeming to absorb light rather than reflect it. "Mother of God," whispered Dr. Chen from her science station. "I'm reading over 50 capital ships, plus hundreds of smaller vessels. The energy output from their fleet exceeds anything in galactic records." The alien commander, who had been observing the Phoenix fleet, was transmitting frantically to his home fleet. "Galactic Command, this is Observation Group 7. The Void Swarm has found Earth, requesting immediate reinforcement from all available battle groups." Elena activated her fleet-wide communication system. "All Phoenix ships, this is actual. We have incoming hostiles at system edge. Numbers unknown, capabilities unknown, intentions presumed hostile. This is not a drill." Throughout the human fleet, crews prepared for a battle none of them had expected to fight. The Phoenix ships had been built to prove humanity's worth to the galaxy, not to defend Earth from extragalactic invaders. But as Elena watched the approaching swarm, she realized this might be the ultimate test of everything they had built. "Human captain," the alien commander transmitted, "you need to evacuate your planet immediately. The void swarm consumes everything in their path. Your ships, no matter how advanced, cannot stand against that fleet." Elena studied the tactical display showing the approaching enemy. The alien was right about the numbers. 50 capital ships against 47 Phoenix vessels was terrible odds, but the aliens were making the same mistake the Galactic Council had made when they first dismissed humanity. "Thanks for the warning," Elena replied, "but we're not going anywhere. This is our home. If something wants to take it, they'll have to go through us first." The void swarm moved through the outer system like a dark tide, consuming everything in their path. They stripped asteroids for raw materials, absorbed energy from the sun, and grew larger with every passing hour. Their ships changed shape constantly, adapting their configuration based on what they encountered. "Captain," reported Commander Park from Tactical, "the enemy fleet is scanning our ships, but something strange is happening. Their sensors can't get consistent readings on our vessels." Elena nodded with growing understanding. "The synthesis protocol. Our ships are adapting to their scans faster than they can analyze us. Every ship is different, and they're all changing constantly. The first skirmish came when a void scout ship approached Jupiter's orbit. The Phoenix 12, patrolling the outer system, engaged the enemy vessel in combat. What followed defied every principle of galactic warfare. The Void ship attacked with weapons that adapted to their target's defenses, energy beams that changed frequency to penetrate shields, projectiles that modified their composition to maximize damage. It was a fighting style that had overwhelmed every galactic fleet it had encountered. But the Phoenix 12 didn't fight like any ship in galactic records. Built from abandoned military weapon platforms, it responded to the adaptive attacks with adaptations of its own. When the enemy changed their beam frequency, the Phoenix ship changed its shield harmonics. When the projectiles modified their composition, the hull metamaterials reconfigured to absorb the impact. "This is impossible," Dr. Chen breathed as she watched the battle unfold. Both ships are adapting to each other in real time. It's like watching evolution happen at light speed. The battle lasted 6 hours before the Void scout ship finally withdrew, damaged and confused. For the first time in their expansion across multiple galaxies, they had encountered a technology that could match their adaptability. "All Galactic Council vessels," Elena broadcast, "this is Captain Vasquez. Your enemy has a weakness. They expect logical, predictable responses to their attacks. They adapt to standard galactic technology because it follows standard patterns. But human technology doesn't follow any patterns at all." The main Void fleet reached Mars orbit 18 hours later. By then, reinforcements from across the galaxy had arrived to defend Earth. Sleek alien battleships took position alongside the patched-together Phoenix fleet, their crews still trying to understand how primitive humans had built such advanced vessels. "Human fleet," transmitted Admiral Thiss of the Galactic Defense Force. "We appreciate your courage, but you should withdraw to a safe distance. This battle requires experienced crews and proven technology." Elena laughed, the sound carrying clearly across all communication channels. "Admiral, with respect, your proven technology got beaten by these things everywhere else they've shown up. Maybe it's time to try something unproven." The Battle of Earth began at dawn on a Tuesday. The Void swarm attacked with coordinated precision, their adaptive weapons systems adjusting to each galactic ship they encountered. Within the first hour, 3 alien cruisers had been destroyed, despite their advanced shields and armor. But when the Void ships encountered the Phoenix fleet, everything changed. The Phoenix 3 activated its cloaking system and vanished from sensors, then reappeared behind enemy lines, firing weapons that shouldn't have been able to penetrate Void armor. The Phoenix 7 used its observatory arrays to predict enemy movements, sharing targeting data through quantum entanglement communication that responded faster than the Void ships could adapt. Most importantly, the entire Phoenix fleet operated as a single organism, each ship learning from the experiences of the others. When one ship discovered an effective tactic against Void defenses, all 47 vessels instantly incorporated that knowledge into their own fighting style. "Their adaptation algorithms can't keep up," Dr. Chen reported excitedly. "Every time they analyze one of our ships and develop a counter-strategy, that ship has already changed its approach. We're adapting faster than they can process the changes." The tide of battle turned when the Phoenix Rising did something no military doctrine had ever conceived. Elena ordered her ship to deliberately take damage from a Void weapon, allowing the enemy energy beam to penetrate their hull. But instead of destroying the ship, the beam was absorbed by the fusion reactor and converted into power for their own weapons. "Captain, that was insane," Commander Park protested. "You could have destroyed us all." "Could have," Elena agreed, "but didn't. That's the difference between us and them. They calculate probabilities and optimize for success. We try things that shouldn't work and see what happens." The Phoenix Rising fired its newly charged weapons at the Void flagship, punching through shields that had been considered impenetrable. The energy beam, powered by the enemy's own weapon, tore through the massive ship's hull like paper. "All human vessels," Elena broadcast. "New tactic. Let them hit you, then hit them back with their own power. The fusion reactors can handle the energy conversion. Trust your ships to do things they weren't designed to do." What followed was the most chaotic battle in galactic history. Phoenix ships deliberately exposed themselves to enemy fire, then converted that energy into devastating counterattacks. They rammed Void vessels and absorbed the wreckage into their own hulls, growing stronger with every impact. They fired weapons powered by stellar energy, orbital debris, and in one memorable case, the coffee machine from the ship's galley. "This is not warfare," Admiral Thies transmitted in amazement. "This is insanity with weapons attached." "Welcome to humanity," Elena replied, watching as the Phoenix 15 used a swarm of converted communication satellites to confuse an entire Void battle group. "We've been doing insanity with weapons since we figured out how to throw rocks." The battle lasted 3 days. When it was over, the Void swarm was in full retreat, their adaptive algorithms completely overwhelmed by technology that refused to follow any logical patterns. For the first time in their expansion across multiple galaxies, they had encountered a force they could not understand or overcome. "How?" asked the Void Fleet commander in the first communication they had attempted. "With any galactic species. How do your ships function? Your technology violates basic principles of physics and engineering." Elena smiled as she looked out at her battered but victorious fleet. Ships that had been built from orbital garbage had just defeated the most advanced military force the galaxy had ever seen. "We took broken things and made them work better. We combined technologies that shouldn't be compatible. We trusted our crews to try impossible things, but most importantly, we refused to accept that anything was truly impossible." The Void Fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed and vanished from the system, carrying word of humanity's impossible victory to whatever force controlled them. The galactic reinforcement fleets remained in Earth orbit, their crews trying to understand what they had witnessed. "Captain Vasquez," Admiral Thies transmitted formally, "the Galactic Council requests an immediate meeting. We need to discuss many things." Elena looked around the bridge of her ship, built from the wreckage of 12 failed space programs and crewed by the misfits and outcasts of human society. "Tell the Council we'll be happy to meet with them. But the meeting will be held here, in Earth orbit, surrounded by our junkyard fleet. 3 months later, Dr.